My favorite coffee and my favorite coffee cup. Keep calm and carry on. When I was a boy living in England during the Second World War, we lived under the constant threat of a possible Nazi invasion. The Nazi forces had overrun Europe, except for the British Isles, and they were only 20 miles away on the coasts of France and Belgium from the south coast of England. We knew it could happen at any given time, and we also had a feeling that we really were far from prepared to repel a serious military invasion. Those were very, very tense days. What we didn't know was that the British government had printed and published thousands upon thousands of posters emblazoned with these words, "Keep calm and carry on," and a picture of the English crown or the British crown. Those posters were never used for the very simple reason the invasion never happened. That didn't mean to say it wasn't tense. That doesn't mean to say that people were sharply focused on it, but it was another of those crises that never actually happened. Well, of course, the Second World War came to an end, and we thought now we can settle down to all that we have fought for, all that we believe we deserve now. And almost immediately we were in the Korean War. And the trouble with the Korean War was that we were told that there was a great communist power, and that this great communist power was ready to roll over the whole of Asia. And we were told about a domino theory. And the focus, of course, was on Korea in those days. And they were very, very tense days, and we were expecting that in actual fact we were going to see the whole of Asia all the way down to Australia and New Zealand coming under communism. In actual fact, it never happened. Of course, we then had something called the Cuban Missile Crisis. And in 1962, President Kennedy was confronted with the Russian leader Khrushchev, and we discovered that the Russians had actually installed missiles 90 miles away from the southern coast of the United States of America. And it was very, very tense indeed at those times. And there was one other time that I remember very, very clearly, and it was when the Iron Curtain was formed. Well, that was Churchill's expression for it. In a famous speech here in the United States of America at the end of the Second World War, Churchill said an Iron Curtain had descended on Europe. And in typical Churchillian manner, he talked from Stettin in the Baltic all the way to Trieste in the Adriatic. An Iron Curtain has fallen. And what he was talking about, of course, was the fact that at the end of the Second World War, the Allies divided up the rule and control of various parts of Europe that had been liberated, except the Russians kept control of their part and built a wall and separated Europe at that time. And I was in Germany at the time when that crisis came to a head. And I remember we woke up one morning and we said, did the Russians come overnight? Because we'd gone to bed the night before with the threat of the Russian tanks rolling into the part of Germany where we were living at that time. And it never happened. What am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is this: our world history, as far as my lifetime is concerned, has gone from one crisis to another. And many of these crises were averted at the last minute. Now, that does not mean to say we can guarantee that every crisis is going to be averted. But what it does mean is that we need to know how to handle all these crises. Now, for many people, as soon as a crisis comes, for instance, the one that we're facing right now, we've got this strange situation of North Korea becoming incredibly belligerent. Some people say that Kim is a crazy man. Other people say he is a very calculating leader, and we need to be very careful. Well, there's no question that this is a tinderbox. It's a nuclear tinderbox, and we need to be aware of what is going on. But how do we handle all these crises? Well, I want to suggest one way we handle it is like this. We keep calm and we carry on. You say, that's easier said than done. Well, most things are easier said than done, but I do believe it is right. Now, this was a purely secular statement, keep calm and carry on. I'm not giving you secular advice here. I'm taking these words and giving them a spiritual glow. Because you see, we can keep calm. We can keep calm because we know that God is still on the throne. We can keep calm because God has promised that the universe that he created and holds in the power of his hands will continue to exist until he determines the end will come. Scripture does talk about the end. It says that the one sitting on the great white throne, eventually the heavens and earth will be unable to stay in his presence and will flee from him. Well, that's a very apocalyptic prediction, that the heavens and the earth that we now understand will cease to exist. But then he goes on to say, in the very next chapter in Revelation, actually, that a new heaven and new earth will be created, characterized by righteousness. Professor N.T. Wright says that means everything will be put right. So if we know that God is in control, that the end will come in his good time, that after the end as we know it, we will enter into eternity, and God will put all things to right, then we can keep calm deep down inside because we know the end of the story. Now, I want to encourage you to do that. But the other side of the story is not just keep calm, carry on. Carry on doing what? Carry on what we've been called to do all along, and that is to live Christianly, to live in the power of the Spirit, to live in obedience to Christ, to know what it is to reach out to people whose hearts are failing them for fear, for those who are panicking, for those who are simply guessing and surmising about the future. Reach out to all these people and conduct ourselves in a way that demonstrates the fact that we are God's people, that we trust him to work out his eternal purposes, and we also believe that he will equip us for everything that he's called us to do. In other words, keep calm and carry on.